I guess there's a playoff game coming, so we'll try to be in and out in case you want to go watch that game. Good morning. My name is Frank Colony. I am your president of the leadership team, and I appreciate everybody making it here today. We will have a informative and I think a good meeting. If I could have, we will operate this under Robert's Rules of Order, which means you need to be called upon to be speaking, and we have a mic. And everybody needs to use the microphone or this microphone due to the nature of the live stream. All right, this is the annual meeting for Peninsula Lutheran Church. It actually covers 2022 and the budget, operating budget, and leadership team members for 2023. The purpose of the meeting, if you have had a chance to read the agenda, election of nominating and leadership teams, discussion of the annual report and updates from chairman, approval of the annual budget. We have a maintenance items presentation, and we have a presentation of the revised scope of the building project. And Pastor Chuck, if I could have you open with prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the 117 or 18 years of ministry that this congregation, you have been faithful. You have given us grace and generosity and love and vision, sustained us through some difficult times. You've prospered us. At times, we ask God today that you would just be with us again. Help us to remember that buildings and budgets and everything, but it's really about the gift of Jesus Christ, who is our foundation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, if I could have Lisa Hertzberger. Do we have a quorum? Do you have your microphone?
So today, we are required to have 13 for a quorum, and indeed we do. We are at 53.
Thank you. Okay, the first item of business. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last year's annual meeting? Okay, we have a motion to approve last year's minutes. Say your name, please. Martha Carsoner, did you get it? And a second. Okay, Clay Selby for the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, last year's minutes are approved. All right, if I could get Julie Nyquist to come forward and present the nominating team candidates.
The nominating team will be Molly Stoon, Diane Frampton, Martha Karshner, and Sheila Jangard. Do you want the candidate for the leadership team?
No.
Okay. Oh, do I do that or do you? Okay. Can we have a vote? All approved? Aye. Against? Guess it's approved.
Okay, now if we could have Clay Selby come forward.
Good morning. I am here to present the slate of candidates for the leadership team for the coming year. As you all probably recall, we do this by slate, so I'm going to just name all of the names that are currently on the proposed list for the 2023 leadership team. Frank Colony, Don Cooper, Kathy Harsh, Judy Lobdell, Nancy Pisinich, Carol Sears, and Clay Selby. That's me. At this point in time, I'm going to ask for an oral vote on all in favor of approving that slate. Say aye, please. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Everybody had a chance, I presume, to read the annual report. So now is your chance, if you have any updates. If you wrote something that went into the annual report and you have an update, since you wrote your report, now is your chance to include the updates. Does any of the leaders have an update? Pastor Chuck does.
Things are going along too quickly here, so I feel the need to stand up and slow things down. Can you turn me on there?
Hello, thank you. I just don't know if you had a chance to look at my report, but I want to say a couple things. First of all, thank you very much as a congregation for supporting the sabbatical that I'm going to be on May through July. Maybe that surprised some of you. It's been put off for a year for various reasons. But first I want to say thank you for that. What a gift. And I outlined kind of what some of my plans are. It's not vacation. There's a lot of education and other things that I'll be working on. But I really want to stress to you is that I feel like I've gone out of the way to provide as great a support as possible while I'm away. You've got some really gifted preachers coming to preach that will challenge you, that'll change it up with this rotation. And in terms of visitation, which is a huge part of the ministry I do, there are 3 people that I'm going to be training and working with that are going to be doing visitation along with the care team. And so those 2 primary responsibilities, I believe, are going to be well covered, and I just want to assure you of that. And if you have any questions, I'm perfectly fine if somebody wants to ask me about my plans or what's going on. But my point is that you will be very well supported. I went to a lot of effort to do that because it's important to me to fulfill my call, my responsibilities to you to provide that. So I just want to thank you. And I want to thank Daryl and the members of the call committee that kind of morphed into a sabbatical committee on that. But do you have any questions about that or anything? I want to just make sure it doesn't sneak up on people on May 1st. And so, where'd Pastor Chuck go? You know, and there's a stranger in the pulpit. So I've got some great staff here, really dependable people that'll cover bases and everything. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Chuck. Any other team leaders have updates? Okay, thank you. We will now have a presentation of the 2023 budget and a vote. Ann White.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank my finance committee team, Diane Frampton, Dorothy Walker, and then Danita Winsworth. And Danita has been working this past year to make our budget, our charter of accounts smaller, and so it's better defined. So we're really excited about it. We based our budget on what we took in last year, and there were a couple of different changes. We put in a line for Fish Food Bank, and then we put in, for guest ministers, we put in $5,000 for the guest pastors. And then as far as the salaries are concerned, we did an 8.5% increase for the music team ministry and for Ann Meacham. The rest are staying where they're at because they either received a raise in the last year or they're fairly new in their position. So our bottom figure is that we are going to be spending $396,787, and we're anticipating income of $401,786. So I think it's a doable budget, and I'm going to call for the, does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
I don't have the budget in front of me, but there was a couple line items for the rental properties where the property taxes were really high this year, and they're dropping very low next year.
I think there was a lot of work done on the properties last year. And
I
so,
see.
yeah, so it's lower this year. I don't anticipate we're gonna have as much. Gail can probably talk to that. And as a matter of fact, I was gonna talk about Gail. We have for, where is it? Anyway, we have, for work that's being done around church for the coming year, Gail gave a very detailed report on it. And we're only including things that normally would happen. Gail is going to be talking about doing stuff that we probably need to do, but we'd have to do separate funding for it. So I'll leave that for Gail to discuss, and I'm going to call for the question, unless there's other questions.
So our proposed budget
It's actually $15,000 less than what we received last year, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you say that so everybody hears? I think that's a good thing to know.
Good thing to know.
We're asking for less money than last year by
That's right.
$15,000.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, those in favor of accepting this budget, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We've got a budget.
Now that we have a budget, the budget unfortunately doesn't include some things that we just discovered, such as the roofs over our heads. So Gail, could I have you come up and talk to that?
At last year's meeting, I was asked to talk about maintenance issues. If you look in your annual report for this year on page 5 at the bottom, you have that report that I gave last year. And I've been asked again this year to stand up and talk about issues that I'm finding. I'm the property management coordinator. I don't do a lot of the work. Jerry is, where is Jerry? Jerry is the one that does 99% of the work around here. I just find the work for him to do. But in that report, I talked about two major issues. One was the enormous amount of stormwater that flows from this corner of our property to that corner, which eventually goes underneath the parish house. The parish house was having issues with water in the crawl space. We addressed that last summer. We were able to clear a line that originally was put under the house but was plugged with sand. We were able to clear that, so with a little bit of labor and some electricity with a vacuum cleaner, we did that on our own and repaired it. The water flow now is back to normal, and whatever water gets under the house is flowing somewhere. We don't know where it goes underground, but there must be a tank or something where that's going in, but it's not a problem any longer. That didn't cost us anything. The second issue was roofing, specifically the roofing on the sanctuary here, the fellowship hall, and the parish house. At that time, I said, well, since that time, we've had the roofing company come in and do patching. You'll remember last year we had leaks over here and leaks over here, and the leak as you go into the fireside room. Those leaks were repaired. We haven't had issues with leakage this year. However, I'm anticipating that after we had to work on the breezeway, the lower breezeway there done, I'm anticipating that we're going to have failure on all of our roofs kind of at the same time. In 2004 was our centennial celebration here at Peninsula. We celebrated 100 years of the church. At that time, they re-roofed all the roofs. They were all replaced. And the reason I know is I was in the vault for 5 hours one Saturday going through every single annual report since 1955. There was no record of when the roofs were repaired. So I had to go through there, and I gleaned enough information to realize that all the roofs are 19 years old this year. And the damage is still there. Gwendolyn, do you have the pictures that, of the vents and things on there? Okay. Jerry took some pictures specifically on the fellowship hall over there, and you can see on this one, kind of in the lower right there, yeah, it's got a twist on it. Can you? There we go. On the lower right of the asphalt, you can see where it's worn and it's torn. Go to the next one. Those are vents that exhaust the hot air out of the fellowship hall. And you can see the rot at the bottom, the mold, the rot on the right side, the board that goes down. There's a corner there that's broken. There's rot in the same corner. These boards are not wooden. They are the composite siding type. It's probably 1/4 inch thick. It's brittle. It's supposed to be impervious to the weather, but you can see that it's not. And the reason it's not, the water from the roof is coming off of that roof membrane on the bottom, on the top there, and as it drips off there, it goes down the sides of the cupola, which are at an angle. You see the cupola up here, and the sides are vertical. The water doesn't get on the siding up here, but it does on the fellowship hall and on the classroom addition. So all the water that comes off has to dribble down the side. It doesn't drip onto the roof. And it's deteriorated that siding. So not only does the roofing, go ahead and show a couple more pictures there. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. That's okay, that's what you have, okay. So not only will the roofing have to be replaced, you can see that roofing is become very thin, the sand has come off, there are nails that are exposed that are rusted, and the water goes through those nails. So it's just a matter of time before we're going to have major leaks on our roofs. On the parish house, looking through the annual reports, I realized that the work that was done on the parish house since 1959 has always been done in-house. And according to the roofers that repaired the breezeway going down to the parish house, there are 3, possibly 4 layers of asphalt roofing on top of that building. It's heavy, and by stacking that much asphalt on there, the water doesn't only go down the slope, but it goes laterally. And that's what's causing the problem where the breezeway meets the roof line of the building. In that area, water is getting on the interior and rotting underneath the house where you can't see it. So there's some major issues down there as well. I'm going to also speak to the garage roof and the rentals. The garage roof is 16 years old, the building is 16 years old, and the roofing is 16 years old. It's getting close to the end of life. And the issue with the rentals and the garage is the vegetation that's around those buildings. They get needles, branches hitting them. There's damage on the roof that has to be repaired periodically. But it's just a matter of time, and those also need replenishing and refurbishing. So I asked the roofers that work down here, I said, from our meeting today, give me an estimate of what it would cost to repair all the roofs. The sanctuary building here would cost $34,000. The fellowship hall would be $45,000, probably not including the structure of the siding. That would be in addition to that. The classroom addition has $12,000 cost, and the parish house, $30,000, which would include new gutters, for a total of $121,000 just for the main buildings to re-roof. If we add on the rentals, rental A, the largest, or the 2 rentals is $20,000 bill. rental B, $9,000, and the garage, $3,600. So another $32,000 just to do the rental properties. Most of that property cost would come out of the maintenance fund for the rentals, but the maintenance fund isn't that large. The fund for the maintenance of these buildings disappeared when we did the breezeway repair. So I'm not saying that it's all doom and gloom, but we have to realize when we talk remodeling and getting some new things going with bathrooms, moving an administration building and opening up a narthex, that we also have buildings that have to be maintained. And we're looking at a pretty large cost on that. So keep that in mind when you're talking remodel. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, one question over here. Go ahead.
You said that gutters were included. Are the gutters included on all buildings or just the one?
The question is, are the gutters included in all buildings or just the one? It's only the one. The gutters are in good shape around these buildings. The parish house, when it was built in 1959, they put a low slope, I think it's a 312 pitch, which is a very low slope pitch, but they put on what's called a California gutter. In other words, the roof, when it comes to the edge of the building, curls up, and then they tar that with a couple places for water to drain out, and there is no gutter. It's just the roof that's been turned up, curled up, and it handles water in California, but it doesn't handle it here in the Northwest. So they would have to basically cut the edge of all those roof pieces, and there's plenty of overhang to do that, and then put in a fascia board and put on gutters. So that's $6,000 for that. Mike?
How long have we got before we have a catastrophic event?
How long do we have before we have a catastrophic event? I don't know. I've put a priority on the fellowship hall, or the sanctuary first, fellowship hall, then the classroom addition, and I put the parish house on the very end because right now we have a tarp that's over most of that roof, and it'll last for a year or so until the wind tears it off. But it's gotten to the point on the parish house where we have to have a tarp on there to keep the rest of the building from getting wet. Any other questions? Okay, I don't want to throw mud on your discussion, but keep all this in mind. Martha.
I don't know what the history of the parish house, those rental places are, but are they cost effective? Do they sustain their own unit, or do we take in money from the church to keep those buildings functional?
Martha's question is, are the rentals cost effective? Are they paying their way? Yes, they are. They have a separate maintenance line, and the rent keeps up with the heating and everything there. We do the work, however. A lot of the work, Jerry, not me, but Jerry does a lot of the repair over there, the painting. We replaced windows and so on and so forth. The windows were paid for out of the budget, but Jerry supplied the labor. So yes, they are paying their way. We're doing it as cost effectively as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. I don't think we have replacing Jerry in the budget either, so. All right, now the moment everybody's been waiting for, the building project update. Jerry?
Jerry's here to update you on giving you our projects that we've been working a lot behind the scenes for the last 4+ years, the background, and now a little bit more of update revisions. We had a purpose, and then I'm going to cover the past 4 years, our background on the building committee, and then our current status. So please bear with me. I presented most of this last week at the Dialogue on Draft. We had almost an overflow crowd. We had some fantastic questions, issues brought up, and we're We have been discussing some of those questions brought up, how to resolve the best answer, and we're still moving forward with the committee to resolve, get the correct information, and move. 2019, members of the congregation took a survey, and that survey then came out in early 2020, and it identified 3 key areas of church needs or church wishes of this congregation. The first was the PLC bathrooms, referring to these 2 bathrooms back here, which are not handicap or very accessible for anybody that has limitations. It's generally in very poor, outdated condition. Our second focus on the building team was going to be there's no place for people to attend worship and to meet and greet each other and greet new people coming to this church. Our narthex is this small hallway area that really doesn't quite meet the needs of this size of the congregation. The third was our kitchen area. The kitchen being very old equipment, not properly set up to have a good flow to it with new health standards and things that had come in. It needs to be addressed. So with those 3 items, we've been, the 3 years we've been, we had approved by the congregation a $1.65 million building expansion. In that building expansion, we planned for new bathrooms. We planned for a new narthex. Courtyard out where the bell tower is, cement area was going to be enlarged. That was going to be our new narthex, a greeting place, welcoming place for this church. And then the addition was the kitchen was going to get revised as well. Well, as we recall, COVID came in. We had a architect company designated, and they started helping us. The owner of the architect company, Mike Cena, passed away due to COVID. The company then folded because no one else was there to take it over, and we had to go back and regroup. We got a former member of Cena Architect who picked up. We chose to help us along with moving forward on our development. We also had a capital campaign which lasted just this last December. It basically ended, but the pastor would correct me to say, we are still accepting money should anybody have extra they would like to share. And this fall, there's plans to put a second campaign into effect, and there'll be a little bit more on that later. So during all this last 3 years, we've been working with the city of Gig Harbor, who due to COVID was working remotely from home. It pretty well ended regular communication with officials and things. It was very hard to get appointments, very hard to call in and get a hold of somebody, notes and follow-up, but we worked through it. We also had an issue with supply chains of equipment, of labor increases, of labor costs soaring from what we had a safety margin built into our original budget of the 1.65 million. And then we ended up with rediscovering we still have a well that is no longer used over near the pump house. We took almost 8 months and several contractors that do wells to finally get a date and time to get the company in and get the well decommissioned. Based on Gig Harbor standards, Pierce County standards, and state of Washington standards, meeting everyone's requirements. It was a long process. Gig Harbor then also came up based on an initial review of what our architect was providing that we were planning to do, and then started coming in with different requirements, regulations, and stats of input. So in 2023, or late December this past year, we realized cost had just skyrocketed just under $3 million, and we felt that was not suitable for this congregation to try to do that. So we looked at our own physical plant, reviewed it, and determined that yes, we may still be able to use some of our current areas, repurpose a lot of space, and still meet some improvements that are vastly needed on this facility. The revised project design still covered bathrooms, administration, bathrooms. Come on, Jerry. Thank you. Yeah, that was my senior moment. Okay, and with that, also the kitchen, to buy some new equipment for that. We looked at planning each facility and then came up with some redesign and cost savings, so we wouldn't be looking at such a giant piece. The other thing then was that interjection of looking to do another continued campaign this coming fall to help pull in some more funds to help support the overall project. The prices broke down to be an administration cost about $302,000. Narthex, we came up with a different design for a new Narthex, $230,000. Bathrooms, $301,000, and a couple other incidentals, and got that all put together. We submitted our CUP conditional use permit to the city of Gig Harbor right around Thanksgiving last year, and it's been back and forth with Gig Harbor, and we've gotten newer information input. There's also some other offline negotiations and talks and reviews of documents, requirements, and so on going on. So I don't want to get into some of the detail of it, but we're hoping to give better, clearer information in the months ahead. The project timeline. At this point, we're hoping the CUP conditional use permit will be approved, and subsequently that would possibly be in June, July of this year. With that timeline, and it's very flexible, we're looking at possibly a September, October timeline for the building permits to be issued. Construction potentially starting November, December, and construction hopefully to end in June of next year. Besides the people that attended to the dialogue on draft last week, as well as thank all of you in this congregation for being here today, as well as those that are online. Appreciate your inputs, appreciate your time in looking at this stuff, listening to me. Our project costs at this point, we were able to whittle it down to about a $1.3 million contract, or cost, I should say, not a contract. The funds available right now, after we've paid permits already, decommissioning, other things that we had to buy along the way or pay for permits along the way, is around $680,000. So we're still looking, or we're still going to need, thus the campaign came out, about a $620,000 commitment to help pay for things. Sources of the funds is that second capital campaign in the fall of this year. And that normally, from what we hear from experts, a second campaign can usually generate 50 to 60% of the missing amount that would be needed. So that's why you're kind of hearing this second campaign. During that time, as we get closer to doing permits and other pieces, the plan is to potentially borrow funds. During construction, we obtain a construction loan. And once construction is stopped, at that point, it would revert to a loan where we would pay interest and funds that are borrowed, and that would move that way. Once the project's completed, of course, the construction loan becomes a mortgage, and we then end up paying on a monthly basis. We're hoping to retain a portion of that $630,000 to assist in the mortgage payment. And during the three collection periods by 2024 or 26 of the second capital campaign. Gwendolyn, could I ask you to put the drawing up on the board, please? Presented this back at the dialogue on draft. Hopefully it's color-coded in a way and gives you a quick idea of what the key areas we're looking at. Hopefully, and you can see it for those online, it comes in clear, or we'll eventually have one posted available here in the church. We have, first of all, in the one section, up to the top right, you see the letter A and the new accessible bathrooms. Right up in this area. So that would be, as you see that, those bathrooms would be totally remodeled, men's and women's restrooms, totally accessible, totally modernized, but you also notice a large space to the right of those restrooms with the green stripes on it. That would be a new conference room, still yet to be totally defined as to what a lot of it's going to be. It's a possible proposal, you'll hear more about it in a moment, where the library that we currently have in the fireside room will come over and occupy a part of that space. Also, you kind of say, well, where's the pastor going? Where's the staff going? You picked up correctly that staff, we need a new administrative office. So staying within our areas of building, if we go outside of our building, that is considered an expansion of the church. New regulations, new rules come in and apply from the city of Gig Harbor. So we're trying to stay within our own footprint and keep the cost effective. So looking just below the green, you see we have right here more lines and stripes that almost comes out blue in the drawing. And that is, we're repurposing our fireside room into a narthex. And as you can see, right near that area there, there's a new sidewalk coming into the church. And in that area of the sidewalk, there's a new entry right there and a new door that would open out into that large court space. And that would be the welcoming entryway for this church in narthex, as well as the hallway as we go out these double doors would be improved and hopefully improved with lighting and more welcoming as well. And that's in section B up there on the wall. The narthex right outside of the fireside room facing north, that would have an open covering roofed area, and that's what those little squares are out there, where the roof is supported, and so it's covered by the weather and hits the sidewalk, and that new sidewalk would then continue out to the front parking lot, or of course, out to the back parking lot. Bell tower remains the same as current location, and then now that we finally figured out, we're putting the, over here by section D is our new administrative offices. You can see we're taking some things away, but also trying to make that space to be more adaptable, accessible for the staff of this congregation that keep all the behind-scene work done on a day-to-day basis. With that admin office moving over there, yes, we do at this point lose the current space there that's the nursery. That still has some work to be done on it as to Where will we recreate that nursery? Where will we provide those spaces for that? One of the possibilities we thought would be that conference room that is currently the pastor's office. As a possibility, we still have a lot of other options. No definite decision made yet, but we've had some very good input from people about what to do with that. So you can also see the center up there, it's kind of an orangish color. Those are all the walkways that will remain, and they'll provide the traffic, foot traffic flow from our buildings to different areas. The one thing is you can recognize maybe the entrance to right in that area there. That's the entrance into the fellowship hall education wing. That is also then with the new office there, administrative office, we need to have a readily accessible ramp for wheelchairs, for people with mobility issues, to get up the ramp, to get to the double door, not have to use those stairs there. So that is also planned on where we see those benches out there in the walkway. So that's there. And then the final thing you see is way up at the top, yellow. That is the kitchen. At this point, we're not planning to expand the footprint of the kitchen, but we are planning to put new equipment in the kitchen that would be designated, as well as shelves and some other support for the kitchen area. So that's, I think, where we are with the building committee and the plans. We think it's the best remodel revision to help us continue to serve and move on. So at this point, I'll stop talking, both for online and the congregation here, and ask if there's any questions I might be able to address at this time. Please.
Something that I think is very important
is that between now and when we finally start construction, our existing mortgage will be paid off, so we are not adding debt onto debt.
Thank you for that, Diane. So the question was, our statement was, is that our current mortgage has a short lifespan on it left, and by the time we start construction, the plans are for that mortgage to be totally closed and disposed of properly. And so as we potentially work towards the building, construction, and then move to a potential loan, we should be very much improved in our progress. Other questions? Anyone? All right, please.
during the children's sermon,
Yes.
they take the children out. Where will they go to?
That is yet to be determined. One possibility, of course, is the new conference area where the pastor's office is now, but we still have some other spaces that we will look at to determine what best meets the needs of this congregation and the families that have those children.
Here, the music room is still there.
The music room is still there though too. It's narrowed down a little bit, but there is space also over in the in the music room space as we see it right now. So there could be some, there's no definite decision. There's still work to be done on that. Please.
How about the choir? Where will their robes and things?
Question is, what about the choir? Where will they fit into this plan? Of course, we still have the choir back here, but changing rooms and other things is still there in the current music room area space, changing before service, after service. That is not planned to be changed at this time, but we have multiple use in a lot of these different areas, and we have to, down the road, figure out those assignment areas for definition and clarity. Mike?
Any thoughts been given to phasing out the entire project into, in other words, breaking it into smaller projects?
that would happen at the construction at different time periods. And of course, the money would be dealt out in different time periods as well.
Question is, have we thought about if funding is not there to support the areas that we're proposing at this time, to break it down into smaller chunks or palatable pieces? We know that that is a possibility. We haven't talked about that, but much of the area is shared. So it's a cause and effect. If we move one, it causes something else. We don't know until we do some more planning, meeting, and making some decisions as to what we can do on that. The other piece will be, of course, still yet to be determined, is a financial package of a group of people who know how to properly address what those costs are. That'll let the building committee have a better insight as to, do we need to move to, we can just do this, or can we do all of it, or combinations of things? Does that help? Martha?
Going back to the rental units that are over there and
Yes.
the property that is sitting on, what is the long-range goal for keeping that, and why, and have you considered just selling it?
The question is, what about the two rental houses, the property over in the southeast corner of this church complex? That property, you want to take it? Okay.
That's kind of outside of the scope of this intentionally. This year, the leadership team will be dealing with that and making some decisions. It's a separate issue, and it's certainly under consideration. So to repurpose the property and or sell it, that sort of thing, so yes.
Any other questions? I thank you for your attention, both online as well as here. One more, excuse me. Georgia.
Yes, I was wondering, I didn't quite understand what you're planning on the houses that are rented right now. Are they going to be what? I have a grandson living there.
The issue of the houses, I want to call it an issue. It's separate from the building project. This year, we are going to consider the whole rental project as a whole to see what best serves the church. There have been some suggestions brought forward about what to do with it, and we're going to take that seriously under consideration and figure out what to do. They're operating a profit, but whether or not that can do it long term is a different question. So we'll deal with that this year. Is that okay? For the purposes of this discussion?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just worried about him. He's going to be a...
We're not kicking anybody out.
Georgia is quite concerned because her grandson over there, they are expecting their first child this next month. And so they're getting very excited. She is obviously very excited and attached. Anyone else? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jerry. That's a huge, huge task to inform us all on that. Okay, we have reached the end of our agenda, so could I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, Molly, we have a motion to adjourn. A second? A second. I'm going to call for a vote, but don't everybody go anywhere yet, because Pastor Chuck is going to offer a closing prayer. All in favor of adjourning our annual meeting, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Pastor Chuck, could you offer a closing prayer?
Frank, I thought you wanted a closing study. We were going to do it. No, okay. Let's just say the Lord's Prayer together, shall we? Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial. Deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. I want to thank you all for coming on behalf of the leadership team. Please know we have lots and lots of food over there for you. So, we're adjourned.